I'm John Ball. I'm the current president of the Yakima Rotary Club, and on behalf of the Yakima Rotary Club, we're so delighted to be able to bring Matthew here to Yakima, back to his birthplace, and have him share his story with the students here at Davis, as well as the community as a whole. Yakima Rotary is dedicated to getting more out into the community and having people such as Matthew back here and sharing what he can do to help make our community a better place.
My name's Moni Law, and I lived here in Yakima from 1997 to, well, actually a long time ago, 1987 to 1999. And I'm here to introduce my son, Matthew Law. He's a filmmaker, actor, writer, cinematographer. He graduated from Ballard High School in Seattle and went on to attend a couple of schools, and he persevered through a lot of hustle to get from Santa Monica Community College onto Loyola Marymount University, where he graduated.
Wrap it up, Ma. Wrap it up.
Traveled. Okay, that's my son saying, wrap it up. He's the director, and he's like, get to the point, Mom. So my son, who has a love for people and a passion for social justice and has put his creative work into filmmaking, is here to talk to some students here. So I'm going to slip away.
Good
and
job,
I thank
Mom.
you.
Good job. Good job, Mom.
Thank you.
Good morning, Pirates. Welcome back to DNN. Today we have a special guest, Matthew.
Hello, Matthew Law. You could, I guess, catch me in a few things that I'm a part of right now. There's a series on BT called The Oval. There's a few movies on Netflix. One of them is called A Fall from Grace.
This is Officer Bryant, location 2342 West Lesson Lane, requesting backup. Police, open up!
29 is 7 minutes out.
Open up, man, police!
Hello?
Yes, open up!
All right, hello? Yes, hello.
I'm looking for my wife.
Who's your wife?
Show on ABC called Home Economics and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which actually wrapped up a while ago. And some personal projects that I'll be posting up.
Can the surface help you dial it in?
You know what, actually, this is how I like to start off my sets. I bet y'all do. 3, 2, 1. Ooh, first time. I like to close out where we're coming from. You know, that's us getting on one accord. That's us saying we're here. And it's hard to be mad, it's hard to be tired when you're grateful. And I'm grateful to be here with y'all. I'm grateful that you took the time. So, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. All right, get at me. What's up? What are we talking about?
How did you get started in the film industry?
How did I get started in the film industry? It's funny, Leilani, am I right there? Yeah. Leilani and I were just talking about how she enjoys film. And I could say, like, the first time I saw this one film, it was 8th grade. I had a teacher, similar to Jeff, who I had to drop something off. Like I was sent from another class to drop something off, and he was playing Rear Window, a Hitchcock film, and I paused. I was like, what is this? And that's when I fell in love with film and cinema, which I guess would be the start, but really getting into the industry, how did I get involved with this as being my job, there was a lot of failure. I chose to pursue it in college, when I'm lucky to have a mother that was like, do what you want. So I turned down football scholarships to go to a school that had a film production program. And I thought that, okay, I'm gonna go, because then there will be rules to this. Like, I can go and then I'll find out, because I don't know how to get started in it at that time, right? I went to Temple University in Philadelphia, because I thought I wanted to be edgy. I didn't want to go to New York, I didn't want to go to LA. Like, LA's like, so I go to Philly, because that's where Rocky's from. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, 18-year-old me, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't think we have any Philly people here, but Philly's not that. Philly sucks. Don't tell Philadelphians, they'll fight me. This is a long answer to your question, but I guess I thought that I had to go to college to figure it out. Really, as a filmmaker, as an artist, what you're trying to find is your voice. Like, what do I want to say? You know, the technical aspects of it, like of how to do the things. Honestly, most of that I learned on YouTube and I learned by experience. When I went to college, once again, these big decisions that we make in life, like, oh, I gotta go to college to figure out what's next for me. I thought it was a final thing, because I traveled all the way across the United States. So here I am in Philly. I'm depressed. I didn't know it at the time, but I was depressed because I wasn't establishing friendships. It was a very cold city, and it wasn't the right fit. It's not that Philly's bad, it's just that it wasn't the right fit for me. So, for me, I had to come back and I said, okay, now I'll go to Los Angeles. So it was step by step, I was failing forward in the sense of I was trying these projects, I was developing my skills as a filmmaker, which was the sense of I was studying day and night of like, how do I do this? Let me look up a tutorial on like, what does cinematic language mean? How do you direct an actor? What is acting? Maybe I should take an acting class. What do these different lenses mean? So I'm getting the language of it. Meanwhile, my life is taking me place by place. And each time I'm taking the opportunity, I guess, to find avenues for me to learn. So it's a lot of failing. I had internships. Eventually I settled at a school. And really what it was, how I got started, to answer your question long-winded, is I decided to do it myself. So all that failure was failing forward, if that made sense. If that makes sense. Because eventually I said, I finally met people that I collaborate with. We need community. We need friends that can become partners, especially if you're going to go into business. And I said, let's just make our own. So me and a fellow student at the college I ended up going to at Loyola Marymount University, we started our own company. So that was me practicing filmmaking. That's me saying I'm not waiting for somebody to tell me I'm doing it. I'm just going to do it. Because meanwhile, I was going to the open mics and finding rappers I liked. And I was like, yo, let me shoot a video for you, bro. And it'd be trash, but I thought it was hype. But I learned every time. You know, and then the businesses. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that's where I should put the camera. Okay, that's how I should frame this person. Oh, that's how I should ask them to deliver this line. So I started my own business. I explored internships and opportunities where I learned by watching experienced veterans, right? In a sense, mentorship is very important. I think when we want to find access in a field that we're not familiar with, that was a piece of it. And then acting was me just falling on my face. Like, I would go on Craigslist, like, acting jobs, and would show up at a warehouse, like, this is the acting job, right? And I was in the middle of Los Angeles at a warehouse with a bunch of strangers who were doing, like, a Maury spinoff. So somewhere out there on the internet is me, like, in an episode of like, People's Court or something like that. So that's a failure in a sense for me. That's an L. But from that loss of doing this, like, weird Craigslist acting job, I learned, oh, okay, there's a authentic avenue for this too. So it's tough because film is illogical, right? I'm not getting a staff position and then going up to a manager and then going from a manager to this and that. A lot of jobs will have tiers, right? This was a swerving path of me taking a step forward in one way, professionally, me going out and finding the answers by doing it wrong, and finding out what I don't want to do too. This is such a long answer to your question, but you just spin me off. I don't know if any of this is making sense.
Yes.
Yeah? So, and also, if I just say one more thing on that, is that I think finding out what you don't want to do is just as important, if not more important, than finding out what you do want to do. You know what I mean? When people are like, oh, I have so many friends, even today, right? 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, who are like, I don't know what I want to do. So I asked, like, well, what do you not want to do? Well, shoot, I don't want to staff, you know, or stock boxes no more. I don't want to roll up silverware no more. There was one day where I bartended for a long time. And I just said, this is the last time I'm doing this. It's just enough for me. Now, of course, I was back there 3 months later because rent was due and I was broke. But that was the last time. But still, I think making that dedication in your mind of, all right, I know for sure this area, this behavior. I had a lot of friends growing up, right, like at y'all age, who started dealing, who started getting into a lot of things, and that led to the death, the downfall, imprisonment within 2 to 3 years, and even today. At that time, even then, whether it was getting in the car at a certain night, I was like, this is what I cannot and don't want to do, right? So sometimes this all builds in for real. getting into an industry, getting into what we do, I think what's different, and I think what's special about coming from a place where not everything is just handed to you on a platter, is that when you have the moment to find yourself in the space where you are connected to a purpose, right? Like you have a passion, you have a passion, you have a passion, you have a passion. All of you have gifts in your own way, and it becomes connected to an opportunity. There were so many moments in the dark before that nobody will see, right? And for me, a lot of those moments of how I got started was me saying no to certain things, was me not showing up to a certain party, was me showing up to a certain party. For me, establishing a certain connection, a certain friendship. But once again, it was connected on kindness and truth, right? Like, oh, really, this is a good person. He's a good person. Meanwhile, a lot of people I knew in Philly who were taking advantage of people, right? Because they wanted to get over quick. Oh, I'm gonna get some money. Like, oh, which to them was them making it in that moment. Oh, I'm gonna get paid for this job. In reality, they were losing out on quality, which is connection with a person over something that is like success. That is not success, right? So I think we all need to find in our lives, like, what does success look like for me? Which I believe is connected to something higher, in the sense of saying, like, success for me means that, like, I'm not gonna burn Olivia. You know what I mean? Like, that's connected to a moral, virtuous truth. So for me, I found out how to get into an industry by, I think, life happening, by being a student and educating myself and being open to be educated in these environments, and then also just being a good human. So if that kind of like brings it all together. A little long-winded, but please keep them coming. I'll keep them short.
You can go first.
You go.
Okay. So I know how you said you would fall forward when you would make mistakes. I remember hearing Denzel say that. That something came up in your mind, or did you hear from him? And what did you do in those moments you failed and you didn't want to keep going?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Isaiah, I think like Denzel. There was so many times. I mean, there was probably a full year where I would just wake up and just like I needed motivation. I need to hear that motivation, because that's the thing. And I'm not gonna put this on nobody, but I will say once again, when I was like, why do I feel this way? I'm supposed to be where I'm at. I'm 18. I made the decision to come out here, and yet I feel so down, right? But that's the thing about depression, is it's oppression. That's the thing about oppression. It causes depression, right? So, sure, I couldn't have seen it. Hindsight's 20/20. When you get distance from something, right? When you get, which is why getting older, and I'm sure y'all can look back at certain things, and be like, why did I do or where or say that? In that moment, sure, okay, it was, even if it was small, and I think we all have this, it's intuition, right? Intuition whispers. And there was something small inside me at that time, which I've learned to nurture, which is, I think that's that belief. I believe in myself, right? Whether I'm gonna say that out loud to somebody or not, I don't know. At that time, I definitely did not actually. Oh no, I played off too much. Humility at a certain time can hobble you, you know? It can handicap you. But at that time, I was, to myself, I said, no, I know, like, this is for me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, it's a sports thing, actually, too. I remember the first time I made varsity, and there was a girl I liked at the game, and I was like, yo, like, hit me on a, like, it was gonna be an 80, like, I was gonna make a
fast break.
I was gonna make a fast break, and I'm gonna get this. My first, like, big thing, sure enough, like, they're around, like, 80 yards. I go up, and like embarrassing drop. And I was a wreck, you know? It was all about that play. It was all about that play for me. This and that, And my coach came up, who was a mean guy. But he pat me and he said, it's next play. Next play. That doesn't exist anymore. Next play, right? And I think for me, in that, like, if we get trapped, we can never go forward. So I think for me it was about, I'm gonna have a next play. You know what I mean? Today wasn't that great. Made this decision. But I believe enough in this engine inside of me and in a future that I can envision that I'm gonna take a step forward towards that, right? So I'll also say it's not just about me, it's about community too, right? Because my homies who I grew up with would be like, yo, what are you doing? Like, what's up, man? I love that. So they're supporting me. And I think none of us can do this alone. Like, I need to make sure that that's clear, too. I think for a long time, I convinced myself. I was raised only child, single mother. Like, my dad died when I was young. He was pretty absent, but actually in the Wenatchee River, he ended up dying when I was 9. He came back for Father's Day, ended up dying. Long story short. I convinced myself in that moment, I can do everything by myself, right? That's fine. It is the biggest lie we can tell ourselves. And one of the biggest ways we can help ourselves when we take that fall or that L is to communicate and to be vulnerable and say, yo, like, Liv, like, honestly, like, I don't know. And Liv's gonna go like, what, Matt? Because she's gonna see, right, if we could talk to ourselves how our best friends see us, it's a different conversation. So we need that reminder. So it's a bit about that self-belief, for sure, and it's about allowing yourself to open up to the community that's there for you. Because I know each one of y'all got people who love you, you know, because they see that in you. So I think those are two pieces, right? And then later on, you're like, oh, I was failing forward, right? Because in that moment, I wasn't like, ugh. It's more so of the organic process takes you there, right?
I was going to say, what's your favorite part of film? Is it directing, cinematography?
What's my favorite part of film? Oh, actually, it's funny. I have something I just shot 2 days ago. I would have showed y'all. Maybe I'll show y'all later. My favorite part of film, directing, cinematography, I think is more so the moment that a small idea becomes like realized, you know, fully. Because no matter what, when you bring in all these people, it's collaborative, right? Filmmaking is a collaborative process. Mm-hmm. So I had an idea, oh, this would be funny. All right, I write it down. Suddenly I give it to Isaac, you know, and you come on and you shoot it, and it's better than I could have realized. And that there's like a moment where it like hits. That is one of the most beautiful things to me. I love teamwork, I love team sports, but like team sports and creativity is a beautiful thing, right? Because everybody is working towards this one goal. So that would be, I think, my favorite.
Is it the feeling that you get when you know that you and other people created this thing?
Yeah, it's something like unnamed, you know what I mean? Where this person's path crossed with mine. It's all those things that come in to make something bigger than you could have thought it could ever be. It's like a huge snowball that rolls and everybody's putting one hand on it. And it's a hard process too, so I think that's why enjoying the process is important, not just the result, if that makes sense too. You know what I mean? When I'm sitting there and watching it, it's almost worse. People be like, oh my God, I loved it. And all I'm seeing is what's wrong, which is something I'm working on. But in the process of it, all I see is the beauty of Jaden, like, yo, what about this, right? Tia's like, yo, what about this? I was like, what about this? Liv's like, what about this? And suddenly we're all like, this is crazy. That sort of a thing is so unique and is so important, I think. And that's why when we watch films, like, y'all got favorite films? Y'all, do kids still watch movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all watch movies?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about, like, make-believe showing us truth, right? For a long time, I dismissed filmmaking. I was like, man, I wish, like, you're great at math, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wish I was good at math. I was like, man, I should have been good at math, because then I had a real job, you know, like, I'll be a doctor, I'll be a surgeon. And slowly but surely, honestly, but even in the past 3 years, is really when it is I was like, oh, stories is how we, like, tie ourselves together. Stories is how we divide ourselves. Stories is, it's like the tempo, it's the beat to which we all march, you know? So for me, I was like, what's more beautiful than, I think, being able to come up with stories together? Because that's how we push forward as, I think, an entire community, as humankind. I'm going really big here, guys.
It's good.
All right, as long as it's making sense.
Yeah.
Tell me if I need it. I haven't talked to people in a while. I sat in the airport for like 10 hours yesterday. I was like, I was just it's like the stars. Let's talk about the stars.
What was your least favorite part of your career?
You know what? It's once again the hindsight part. Like I didn't see it, but I would talk to friends like, "Man, Matt, you were looking rough there for a while, bro." I was such in the hustle mode, you know. I wasn't doing what I just gave the advice to, which was opening up. But there was a period in time where I was like sleeping out of my car in Los Angeles, and I moved and I was showering at the local community college, and my credits didn't transfer because there's a whole bureaucracy in college, and I was having this and that, and I was just trying to get some money to like eat. But there were, and once again, like it's not like you made it, right? That's not a thing. Like you don't come off the top and you're like, and I'm free of ever having a problem. But those moments of like, I was working at BJ's Brewery. I don't know, they make like cookie pizzas. Pazookies, they call them. Okay. And it was just a bad job with like me, just terrible coworkers. Just everything was like a rainy day, you know, every day. And once again, I didn't feel it because when you're in that, and that's why we need to be able to reach out to the people that care about us and who we care about. But I was so low. And I think the hardest part of, or what I like least is I think it's important. I think we all need to, you know, with no struggle, there is no progress. But like, there is a time, I think, of my transition to where I was moving, to where I didn't know anybody, to where I was trying to find opportunities, where I was trying to learn what to do. That is difficult. I made it more unnecessarily difficult because I should have been more open with the people who cared about me. But like objectively speaking, I was just like hungry all the time, and tired and cold. What I don't like about the process itself is what I love the most. So writing is the hardest thing. Like have y'all done creative writing?
Yeah. It's like easier when you know you're writing, but it's like harder when you're trying to figure out what to write about by yourself.
Exactly. And sometimes like, cause for me it's been going deeper and deeper. Like how honest can I get? And I guess what I'm saying I don't like it, but it's just because it's uncomfortable where I'm like, dang, I'm really about to say this, you know, and I believe this. And what is so, before I'd be like, oh shoot, so-and-so is gonna think something about that, I better delete it. But the most personal is the most creative, and the most creative is the most universal, if this makes sense. So I'm trying to tell this to you now too, because I held on too long to these false ideas of, oh, let me make something that Isaac's gonna think funny. But like, I'm like, I think that it could be a little bit more. I silence myself in order to please others. So now I say I don't like it, but it's the most rewarding in the sense where I'm like, oh, here we go. Like, here's a blank page, and it's tough. But man, is it rewarding when you get to the end and you're like, oh, there's a piece of truth in there that I just left. And then to the previous conversation, that feeling of everybody coming together to add on to that is a huge joy.
What do you think is the most important thing you learned in your career?
What is the most important thing I learned in career specifically?
Yeah.
That's not about the money, right? It's about the mission, like for real. And it's hard when you're in survival mode, but it's really not about the money. I know a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to be successful, and they equate that with these things, and that's just not it. And you don't have to look far to a lot of people who are very affluent, who are miserable. I've learned that community requires communication, right? That it dies in silence. That compassion requires contribution in the sense that you have to give something. Like to be compassionate to one another, right? Listening and responding is contribution. But am I listening to understand, or am I listening to respond to her? You know what I mean? If you're telling me something, I'm going, but was I really listening? And I say that this is important for the career because because misunderstandings happen all the time. Like, egos pop off all the time for the smallest things. I don't know, y'all going to buy an Arizona can and somebody, like, there's I don't know why I brought up Arizona, but like, misunderstandings, egos can flare anytime, and these things are, it's like, all right, let's take a breath. Like, just the other day, somebody was getting real short on a set that I was directing. I said, okay, like, no, first of all, let's not do that. Let's take a breath. And now let's respond, right? And then also that creativity requires courage, is I think really, and even what we were just talking about. Like, to be courageous means that you gotta be willing to stand there and say what you feel, what you believe, and be willing to be wrong, and that's okay. Because even like we just said, like, to be wrong is all right, but we need to, after that, the getting up, the next play part of that is that, like, okay, I was wrong about that, like, cool, but I'm growing from this. Amazing, you know what I mean? So I think those areas, and I'm trying to listen even to, like, what would I want to hear from myself, but honestly, guys, like, it is the big, like, human to human parts that are the most important from what I've learned. Not like the, how do I edit this, how do I shoot this? It's like, how do I communicate? Because it's not about who knows you or about who you know, it's about who knows you. In the sense that, oh, I know Isaac, he's a great dude, right? Somebody calls me up, yo, you know something of this? Oh, Isaac, yeah, man, he's a great guy. So it's not about Isaac knowing me. It's about the fact that, like, oh, I met Isaac, and he was a good person. So that all pays forward, that all cascades in any area of what we choose to go into, of childcare, of being a NASA scientist. I don't know. What are you going for? Your team. What are you thinking?
It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It's just like the connections you make.
Right, connections of authentic connections.
Yes.
Yes.
What do you like to do outside of your job? Like,
what do I like to do? I'm such a square, you guys. Such a square. Like, I'm in LA. Like, no, I am at the house lighting a candle and watching Succession. What are y'all watching right now?
I just finished that show.
Yeah.
It's good.
So that's me. I was watching Pride and Prejudice the other day. Y'all seen Pride and Prejudice?
Yeah.
Nobody told me that thing. Yo, Isaac, go watch Pride and Prejudice, bro.
Okay. Where is it on? Netflix? Hulu?
I think I had to rent it on Hulu or Prime. Rent it on Prime.
I probably won't be able to watch it.
Okay. But if it comes streaming, you better watch that.
It's on HBO.
Oh, it's on HBO. That's right. I applauded. I was alone in my house applauding. It's a little too revealing about maybe what I do outside my work. I kick it with my friends in the sense of, like, finding new adventures all the time. What's different about when you're older is that it takes, like, a lot of effort to, like, plan things. So I, like, rented a cabin for this weekend, y'all. Like, I'm up in Big Bear. Like, what's happening? You know. Haven't seen I'm making more of an effort to be like, yo, let's go on a hike. You know, so I'll hike, read a lot, watch a lot of movies, try to do something new, something uncomfortable. I trained with some Navy SEALs the other day. I'll never do that again. Those guys are crazy. Yeah. I'm like, no, I'm a land mammal. Like, this pool is not for me. And I like to travel. Obviously not with the pandemic. So, but even, like, I drove across the United States from New York to LA the other week, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, we have so much within our own borders. We have so much even in Washington. I took one trip from LA to Seattle on my motorcycle, and, like, I was like, dang, I haven't even seen my home state. You know, Washington has, like, a lot. It doesn't have a lot too, but there's a lot out there.
Do you like to keep your circle small, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah. Do I like to keep my circle small? I think that naturally happens. There's some people who, like, on Instagram are like, yo, I keep my circle small, bro. It's like, all right. Okay. I'm not about that energy. You know what I mean? I'll never meet somebody and be like, will you fit in my circle? I think that this is just an organic thing that happens when, I know that is just what happens in the sense of, like, there's acquaintances and then there's friends, right? And that's okay. Certain people have to be like, there's this, she studies vulnerability. Her name's Brene Brown, and she has a daughter who was, like, told a secret. She's like 5 or something, told a secret to this other girl, and the girl, like, said it to the whole class and embarrassed her. And she was like, Mom, like, I trusted her and this and that. And she described it like everybody has, like, a marble jar, like, in their class. And when somebody's kind to you, like, I take stock of that sometimes. And once again, even communication, I've been better with that. Before, I was a little cold. This is like the real stuff. But I had a person who called me the other day. What's up, man? I was like, oh, what's up, man? He's like, oh, I'm working on some things. I was like, oh, tell me about it. Like, what's the story? What's the script? He's like, oh, I can't tell you that, man, because you know how people in LA be. You might want to steal my idea and this and that. I was like, all right. So here's the thing. Like, you have my number because I care enough to have you call me. Like, we're spending time right now. I'm spending my time, my energy, and you have to watch your energy. Not in a selfish way, we have to be, but in the sense that here's a person who's like, oh, I can't trust this person. I said, this is not for me. That's it. If that's how you want to operate, if you are distrustful of the world, like, I wish you the best in dealing with that, but just don't do it on my time.
Yeah.
And he apologized, but for example, for me, it's like in the sense of a small circle. It's like this person isn't necessarily in there, because for him to even have that fear lets me know that he doesn't know me. If you know me, you know I'm not interested in that. Period. Like, I'm asking you because I want us to collaborate here. I want to help in some sort of way. So, yes, I do.
What is some movies or films that you'd want to film, like the stories? Like, what would they be about?
Like that I want to make.
Yeah.
And what would they be about? I want my first feature to be here in Washington. It's so funny, guys. I haven't been back to Yakima in like longer than you've been alive, probably. But I want to film it here, and this is like the big idea. But really, it's like there's stories about like medicine, like in the sense that like I love things that let us feel like a little freer after we watch them, if that makes sense. Liberation, medicine, or things that just that are just silly, you know, that let us forget about our problems for a minute. So right now, the film that I'm kind of drafting up. How long do you have? And I can't get this. Actually, no. Okay, so a film that I'm drafting up right now is basically about like an Indiana Jones meets Rush Hour. If y'all have seen either of those.
Yeah.
So action comedy with a message of truth, like kind of in there, you know. So it's a fun movie, but like you leave like, oh man, I didn't really think about that.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. Plenty on the horizon though, other things.
Just in Washington, I'm free.
Hey, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, Isaac, what's up? Okay, all right, I have to come back to Yakima.
What's your favorite piece that you've done?
My favorite piece that I've done is the last piece. Is this piece that I'm making right now, which feels great to be like, oh, I'm making what is my favorite. Like, I'm so excited. And it's an episode of this following this therapist, as basically each of his patients are kind of like bringing in a new problem that reveals more problems about himself. So this one, he takes his patient to the park because the guy is like he's a comedian. This patient's a comedian who like has no problems. Like, everything's fine, doctor. What's the problem? And this guy's just goofing off at the park. So this past weekend, I got a bunch of people at a basketball park, and I just love life in frames. So just watching sort of the story that you wrote be inserted in the middle of a basketball game in a park with all these things, it's like, there's the life. So I'm very excited to see that out. This comedian ends up kind of revealing that he self-harms. I don't know, growing up in Seattle, after Yakima, like I had a lot of friends who did that, and I wanted to, put it on film and just like not talk about it. Especially this guy who laughs at everything and seems like he's such a bubbly, colorful character. So there's that, and then there's just some fun stuff that is just not heavy. Like that's heavy, rightfully so, and funny. But I'm also I love. There's this really surreal comedy thing that I put on that just makes me laugh. I don't know if anybody else laughs at it. I'll have to show you guys one thing that I made in high school after. I can't show them, but it's... Actually, I'll give it to you, Jeff. It's terrible. Basically, what I was making in high school, guys, is like... God forbid the world sees it. But oh well. Let's not be embarrassed. This is who we are. Live our truths.
Yeah.
What about you? Tell me. I heard
Wow,
that.
you just saw my expression you knew. What do you want people to see in your work?
I want them to see something in themselves. That sounds so pretentious, but like in the sense of like, there's this thing, his world famous editor, and he wrote this book called In the Blink of an Eye. And he's like, if you watch a really good film, if you set up an infrared camera at the front of the theater, back when we still are, but if you're watching a really good film, you can see everybody's eyes blinking at the same time. Like, you'll watch these eyes close and open at the same time, and it's because they are so attuned. Everybody in this theater is so locked in, and this piece has been crafted in a certain way to sort of like not let you, that we almost get on, we become rhythmically. So what I want people to see in my work is something that is so compelling that like they stop thinking about their problems, like about doing the laundry, about like this and that. It's just about like, oh my God, what is happening here and now? And then when they leave, it's like they take whatever that was and place it. Oh man, I never really thought about that. The one I was just talking about, a mom came up to me. She was like, thank you so much for that last one. It let me know that like, I'm not alone in certain sort of ways. That's important to me. Or just like, yo, that was hilarious. Like, those things to me are just like, that feeds me.
So would you want, with your film and everything you do, to leave like a certain print or legacy, and what you do makes people feel something or think about something that they weren't thinking about before?
Yeah, I think we all, yes, yeah. I mean, I definitely, when we focus so specifically on one goal, like we can't juggle, I used to try to juggle plates, but like quality increases over quantity, right? And the hope is that, it leaves like a footprint, that it leaves a mark. And because that is viral in a good sense, in the sense of like, if you start having a good day, like even if somebody, like if you ever had like a bad day and somebody like smiles at you, and you're like, and then here you are and you take that and you spread that. There is a magnetic effect to like positivity, not toxic positivity, but like true like, man, I let something go here today. So yeah, that's definitely my hope. And it's weird because it feels like I'm just getting started, like as of these past like year or two. So how did I get started in this industry? Like 6-7 years of me failing forward and revealing like, what is my voice? You know what I mean? And now these past 2 years being like, that's where I want to place it. Oh, these are the people I need to be a part of it, because my circle is small in the sense of like, I can't trust this person, which is okay, like go ahead. But like, I can't trust him with this responsibility. And I think organically, hopefully, once again, that little belief is like that it leads to that place of like, man, I left my mark. I've been waiting for the time of like, I'm saying that feature, like where I want to come back. Like when I go to the East Coast, like Yakima. Yakima. It's like Seattle. They're like, oh, where all the vampires are at? Like that's, Twilight is kind of like the export of Washington. So even if it's as small as like the impact of like, oh yeah, like I've seen something that was super dope that came out of there. Oh, that was that. And whether it's somebody walking away and saying, wow, I feel really changed for the better, and I'm gonna take that home or to my friends, or it's just hype and they're laughing about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely making the mark. I think that's important for all of us to think about, like, what's bigger than myself? What am I serving that's bigger than myself? Very important.
Black History Month mean to you?
What does Black History Month mean to me? Black History Month means to me, they saddled us in the shortest month. No smoke. But Black History Month, like Black history is American history. Black history is global history. So for me, I got really active a couple years ago, like demonstrating in Los Angeles on the streets, and for me, even what you said about leaving a mark, I realized that this activity of being in the streets and seeing kind of the systemic injustice that exists on a face-to-face level with the LAPD and with the sheriffs and with the politicians of Los Angeles, and then what that means for Washington when I talk to Seattleites and all, and I'm sure even what happens here in Yakima is like, oh, where's my voice in this? And it is in the work, right? So Black History Month means to me is that like, it reminds me of am I being mindful of how I am walking in this world and how I'm telling stories? Because before I didn't know how to place myself, I'd be like, am I black? I don't know. This dude just said, like, I go to Philly and they're like, light skin, this and that, yada yada, da da da. And suddenly, the bigoted stereotypes of what it meant to be black is how they were looking for a qualification, a gatekeeping. So for me, Black History Month is always a reflection of me saying, of standing like here and being like, nah, brother, I'm black as it is. And I don't want to bring up the fact that like I got like jumped by white boys, called a nigger, like forcibly arrested to qualify. That's not what we're doing here. Black History Month is always another reminder to not corner blackness, you know, but to allow the fact that there's as many ways to be black as there are black people. And I'm not sure how everybody identifies here, but especially if you are mixed race and things like that, a lot of times you sit between worlds, or at least you feel like you do. Oh shoot, actually, let me be honest. Like in middle school, right, high school, like these things, I felt, I won't put on anybody else, but I felt like, oh, am I? Like, because then people say like, oh, this is a black thing, this is a white thing. You skateboard and you snowboard. Now this is falling away now more so, or you talk black, or you talk white. Like these, and what's interesting is that these are all manufactured stereotypes that are current and modern, right? Like if we go back to like W.B. Du Bois and Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, and we talk about diction and enunciate. Like so these ideas are such a trap, and I think that Black History Month is always a reminder to embrace and to celebrate just how like wide, and to step proudly into saying like, yes, I am, right? And to not, I think it also is a reminder to be like, it's not bingo. Like I'm not here to be like George Washington Carver created peanut butter, and that's what this month is for. It's for community. Back in Los Angeles, I got a buddy who started a yoga, like it's basically like a black and brown led like yoga flow in public spaces. They got like 200 people now. Started with like 6. So you just got these 200 black folk like stretching in the park. And I think what Black History Month is too is that sometimes we don't have across like indigenous, black, brown communities, we don't have the tools to give ourselves grace, if that makes sense. Like in the sense that this is a month where hopefully we can hold systems accountable to saying like, I demand better out of my history, I demand better out of my systems, I want better out of my job, I want better out of my friendships. Hey, the way that you talk about, like, because at least it's in the air, right? Yeah. It's a little more specific. So it's a celebration for me. At the same time, it's a sort of like, yeah, but all 12 months, buddy, you know?
Yeah. Just not this month.
Yeah.
When is the very first time you experienced racism? Was it to you, a family member, a friend? And how did that impact you?
You know, I'm going to answer it, and I would love to hear from you guys too, if you're open, for letting me know when the first time you guys did, if you have. I pray that I live in a world that they said that we were living in. First time I experienced racism, micro aggressions and that sort of a thing. I know that there was things when I was young, but like the most defining sort of, there's always things, whether it's me in at a corner store and suddenly I get told that I'm stealing something, you know. And there's so many things that we could point at, but I think the thing that when I was 12, 13, and I was walking, I don't know, why do y'all do what you do? No, this is middle school, so it's not y'all. In middle school, why do middle schoolers do what they do? Like, it was after school and everybody meets at the McDonald's. Like, I don't know where everybody goes to McDonald's. The fights happen at McDonald's, like, kick-its happen at McDonald's. Yeah. But I usually had soccer practice. I didn't that day. I was off. And I was like, oh, okay, so what, it's like 2:50, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or 3:10 or so. I forgot when school gets out. And you had to walk up a block and over a block to get to this McDonald's. And I had my buddies there, my one buddy, small Ecuadorian gentleman, and these 3 girls. And we're 12, 13. And as we're walking up, I see these guys on the corner, 4 white dudes and a white lady. Turned out later that they were 20, 24, like 19, 22. and they're drinking. Like I see the 40s in their hand, like they're drinking in the middle of the day. Like it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm walking, all right, that's weird. I see these girls kind of speed up ahead of us, and as we walk, and I hear these guys start to talk to the girls I'm with, and they're like saying nasty stuff, you know, hey baby, this and that. I said something I thought was, I had an afro at the time, like a very, very nicely shaped afro. And I was like, you know, why don't you shut the hell up, man? I said something I thought was tough. And as we ran the corner, I heard the guy say, what'd you say, nigger? And as I turned around, he jumped me. So I get jumped by these 4 guys, who I found out they were like twice my age. Fighting these 4 guys. Cops pulled up however long later. I'm on top of one of the guys, another guy's pulling my hair, the guy's kicking me. And I remember in my head, I remember thinking, oh good, the cops are here. Like I remember thinking that. Because there are these systems in place that are supposed to be objective in keeping us safe. And I remember thinking that. It's crazy. I was like, oh good, the cops are here. And I remember the cop jumped out. I remember, jumped out. He looked at me, hand goes to his gun. The one guy that had jumped me, so he's like, sir, this guy comes out of nowhere. And as I get up, I'm like, officer, he says, shut the F up, right? Grabs me, puts me in a headlock, slams me on the trunk. Breath, like, I don't know if you've seen how cops do it, but it cuts your breath out. I'm 13 years old. Four dudes around me. And in that, just real quick to like, if we're doing like NFL film, like to break that down, he saw this picture of 4 people twice my age, and I was a threat. So I'm there, I'm getting handcuffed. This lady comes down. I'll never forget. She comes down, runs down her steps from this apartment, runs over. She's like, this kid, she's pointing at me, this kid was been outside my house all day selling drugs and playing loud music. That's exactly what she said. Like, word for word, exactly what she said.
Talking about you?
Talking about me. I was such a square boy. But she looked at me and she saw somebody who had been standing outside her house selling drugs and playing loud music. And in that moment, it felt, and I think that everybody who is a minority in this nation, every black child in this nation feels this breaking of reality eventually. There's a moment where it happens, where I was no longer Matthew Law, A student, soccer captain. I was a nigger, right? And that moment for me was definitely sort of like a, oh, okay, that's that. You know what I mean? Now I live in Seattle, where Seattle is so progressive, and Seattle's this and that, and Seattle's yada yada. And my grandfather, who grew up in Jim Crow South, like that's where nah. So that was, and that's a very extreme case, like extreme. I don't know why I have to like even put like even you see even that habit. I was like, oh, that's an extreme case. Nah, it just happened.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Have you guys ever experienced anything? And this isn't a but just anything, or the first time that you felt that you were different and made to feel.
I was going to say something that happened recently. We were going to pick up one of our cousins because he was in some trouble, and he was just skateboarding around this neighborhood with his friend was white too, and we got there and like there was like a bunch of cop cars, and there was just like a bunch of like, or not a bunch of, but like two neighbors who came out. They were separate families, and they kind of just like targeted our cousin. And they were saying, oh, like he was skating on my property and stuff like that, and just calling him, you know, very like the slurs. And so something really scary happened. My brother and my cousin were trying to act all tough. They got out the car because the neighbor guy, he was like a middle-aged white guy, comes up to our car, starts yelling, starts calling us slurs and saying, oh, we're gonna find you and stuff like that. So my brother gets out the car, and this guy's up in my face, he's up in my cousin's face, he's like, I'm gonna find you, and he's all pointing cameras at her face. My brother is like really protective, so he's like, hey, get out of their face. He goes up to him, and the guy kind of just like pushes him and stuff. Something I also remember from that night was that those two neighbors, they knew who was like, knew they were just skating, right? They told the white kid, I remember, they were like, just say that he was the one that was on our property.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They were just like telling him to pinpoint it on his friend. And I remember he did.
He did?
Yeah.
The friend did?
Yeah.
You know, what, really?
Yeah. So, I mean, that was just a crazy night. It kind of just like, I was really scared. I know it made me like really mad.
Yeah.
But then I was also like scared because there was like 3 cops cars there, and then there was like these 2 like white neighborhood families.
Yeah.
So like, man, when my brother stepped out of that car, and my cousin stepped out of that car, and when my other cousin was over there being like interrogated, I was just like so worried about them.
Right, and rightfully so, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it is injustice, right? I don't have anything to say that's like, we haven't solved it yet, have we? But I think that going forward from that, is this my friend? Somebody who does that? A lot of times character can reveal itself in conflict. It's not for me to say, you know, who's to forgive who and that, if there's, you know, forgiveness taken, but there's a distance maybe that needs to be like carefully so. That sounds very scary. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to make clear too, guys, like, blackness is not a response to whiteness. You know what I mean? Like this is, I think, just if you are willing to share like a good thing. I just want to point out, like, obviously, I would almost want to counteract this with incredible joyful story, but we know this. You know, we know that joy lays inherently, I think, in all spaces. But I don't know if you've ever heard the first time you ever experienced anything for being different, Jaden. Honestly, I would love to hear if any of you are just like, nope. I'm like, that's great.
I don't know. Honestly, just that people, I don't know, don't really understand. Because, like, people, like, I'm black and Mexican, right? So, I'm, like, put in a separate category. Like, I'm not really, like, oh, like, you're not black, da da da. You can't do this, you can't do that, you know? But I think it's a lot online. Like, people have, or think it's okay to do certain things online. But then, like, I don't know, they don't feel the same when it's in person, you know?
Yeah,
so I think that's what it is.
So y'all definitely have to deal with that, I'm sure, as a generation, a lot of the...
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, stop doing that online. Do you have anything you ever want to share?
I never really went in a situation where they're like calling me slurs and everything, but I faced some like microaggressions when I was younger. They would like just say stuff like, oh, your hair looks better straight, or I don't really like, they would sometimes touch my hair. And one time, I remember this was so dumb, but in 7th grade, I think, this kid was sitting across from me. And I don't know if he was Mexican or white, he was pretty pale. But I know he said the N-word a lot, but he would ask me to say it, just for fun or something. And he'd get, he was just saying, like, why won't you say it? You're black, like, you can say it. Even though I don't like to say it.
Yeah, see, like, and I think that what's important is we need, if we ever saw, like, we have to call that out, you know what I mean? Because this stuff thrives when he's just allowed to sort of act a fool like that. I have another name for him, but, like, you know what I mean, to act like that and to not be called out for it. I'm sorry that you had to do it, because I think even back to when I was in Yakima, and I remember this. I remember I stopped reading. I was reading at a higher level, and then I stopped. Like, I started pretending like I was dumber because of certain things connected to race, but even connected to just like I would get beat up a lot. Oh man, I wish I had this. I have a picture. I'll show you. I get beat up a bunch, right? So I dimmed my light and I performed for somebody else. You know what I mean? At that age when I was young, where kids would do something, I would feed into it because I didn't know that, first of all, nah, bro, like, and I don't like, honestly, I don't know what you got going on, but good luck to you, I'll pray for you. But how did that make you feel? Like, how have you dealt with that now? Like, do you feel like if that happened now that you?
I feel like if that happened now, I was really planning to say, like, why don't you say it? I've heard you say it before, and like just expose him. But I feel like that's what I would say. I don't know.
Sometimes just giving people the rope, which is a bad term, but like, I'll just be like, what did you say? Oh, what you mean? No, just go ahead and say it again. Like, people, you sound very stupid.
Yeah, like.
You know, and when the laughter dies down and this and that, it's like, why did you laugh at that? Oh, I mean, no. I mean, was it funny, or why did you laugh at that?
Like, show them how stupid they sound.
Exactly. It leads them to their own grave. You know what I mean? Because they know. What's crazy is that ugliness, right? Like, that's such an ugly thing that this person was doing. Whether they know it or not, I hope they find whatever healing they need to not do that. But that's not for me. Like, do that, because we don't need to. Emma, what's it called when you let somebody off for a crime? Acquitted? Like, that's one term. I'm not here. No. I free you of any of this responsibility.
Release you.
It's right there.
Exonerate.
Yes. Who did that?
Oh,
Your mom.
he gets the points over here.
Yes. Yeah. We're not here to. Like, accountability is necessary, right? Like, and this is the whole thing of like accountability. Like, I don't even like saying this because it's feeding into a conversation that somebody else is directing for something that isn't connected to what they want. But like, it's not canceling. I'm holding you accountable in this moment. That's all. Because whether it's our distance and I just don't need you in my circle, or whether it's the fact of like, I've had friends too where it's like, listen, this is not okay. Well, it was just funny. Say it one more time and tell me what part of that is funny. You know, I had a friend, a Mexican friend, and my white friend would make these jokes, and as somebody who wasn't him, we have to do that too, right? It's not just when it's at us; it's when it's people to our left and our right too. And it feels, but honestly, like, you just gotta call it out. You just gotta call it out. So I don't know, Isaac, if you ever felt anything like.
Not me personally, but I know my family has. Like, when my grandma was in high school, like, she'd play basketball. Like, similar thing that just happened recently. Like, she would get called the N-word all the time. She'd get like things thrown at her, like, during the game. And then, like, also my great grandma, when she was here, she would experience racism too, because I mean, it's not as bad as it is in the South as it was in Yakima, but you know, she's from down south and she migrated here, so I'm sure she heard her dad and mom experience the same things.
Right. Yeah, that othering, you know, to be the other, and I think that's why, once again, before we talk about community and all those, we have to make sure. And I don't know, do you guys feel like you have a space, or that your friends hear you or see you, you know, truthfully, or no? It doesn't really exist?
I feel like it's more the people you grew up with, like family, because they understand, and they're like your bloodline, you know? So it's more family.
Did you ever have anything where somebody made you feel bad for being different?
I think what it is for me is that people of color a lot have to experience normalizing yourself. So, like, you mentioned, like, having to straighten your hair or change your clothes, or like the music you listen to. I come from a Mexican background, but I know that, like, listening to like Spanish music, some people are like, what is that? Like, what are you listening to? And so a lot in middle school especially, I tried to straighten my hair more often and curl it, and change the music I listen to more pop, listen to more top-rated rap and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just what everybody else was listening to. And as I've gotten older, I've started to really claim back my identity and the things that I like. Yeah. I think that's important for people to do.
So important. Yeah, thank you for that. I think truth, right, is like, and not in the sense of like, I said something way out of pocket, but that's not truth. No, we're talking about like, I love this music. I love wearing this. I love looking like this. I love standing in this. That is a lighthouse, right? So I put forward that, each of you continue to be the lighthouses that you are, because you shine ways for others. Don't be afraid, even if it's common, or even if, right, that pressure is on and somebody is the loudest in the room. It's usually very much a sign of insecurity, right? And we'll let them be at peace with that. Anyways, I think we've been holding a little UN forum here on race relations in the United States. I appreciate you guys so much. I think we have to wrap it up, but.
Well, thank you so much for the group to be here, and thank you to you, Matthew, for spending time with Davis today. That's all we have for you today, Pirates. I hope you have a great day. Bye.
Bye.